get financing. And although maybe we don't know who they are, we can help cut them off. And in terms of attacks against this country, we talk about, oh, we're going to protect ourselves. I've seen some of the military requests for information. Oh, we got to protect ourselves, and they put these scenarios in, and okay, then let's use our offensive capabilities. Like, wait a second. If you can't stop the traffic, and you can't find who's actually behind it, you've got to try an addition. There's a space between defense and offense. There's going to the ISPs and blocking the traffic of the bad guys when things really happen. We've got to be ready. If there's going to be a serious attack on this country, if we have to get an executive order to block the traffic that comes in the undersea cable by Silicon Valley to block certain IP addresses or IP blocks, we've got to be ready for it. We've got to protect ourselves, and we have to be proactive and strategic in doing so. Finally, we can't connect the dots in the United States in terms of malicious activity. It is really unbelievable. Our paradigm is IP address and signature. We are not collecting and sharing the information behind the IP addresses. And nobody is requiring the companies who sell the IP addresses, kind of the bulletproof hosting, to provide real identity and real payment information. So you can't connect the dots between the malicious activity and the spam that the Federal Trade Commission sees, the IRS sees, Justice sees, the other federal government. We've got to have an federated information sharing capability. We can't, right now we know that or at least we thought we knew until the Christmas Day incident, that if information is tied to terrorism, it goes to a central place so those folks can have visibility. But how are they going to tell if the terrorists are using spam to finance their operations? They can't connect the dots. It's kind of common sense. Finally, we need a national cybercrime survey. We don't know the magnitude of the problem. People tell me, oh, the Computer Security Institute does their annual survey. And they say, knowing full well that the CSI admits it's not statistically significant. Well, unfortunately, what not statistically significant means is that you can't take it as accurate for what it says. And you certainly can't take it as accurate from comparing one year to the next. I know it's fun, and they do a great job, but we have no ability to tell the magnitude of our problem. And we need to be able to tell, and you can't do it every year because it would be too expensive, but every 2 or 3 years do a national cybercrime survey out of the Bureau of the Census. I think would give us a much greater handle on the problem. I ran out of time. I don't know if we can sneak a few questions, and I welcome comments as well, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
I think Andy's here the whole afternoon, or when do you take off?
No, early afternoon, I have to go. But comments are welcome also if you...
I can shout.
Let's do a shout.
Has there been consideration to establishing an international agency, similar to, say, International Atomic Energy Agency, that would go around and basically evaluate cybersecurity programs, say, in different countries, and give them a rating or something, and then translate that rating and let countries go, okay, you got a rating of 3, so here are these economic sanctions or things I won't do with you. You got a rating of 10, I'll trade more, and I won't put tariffs on your stuff, and I'll do a nice trade partner. Somebody thought about doing that.
I don't think there's been serious consideration of such an idea. If you do draw the analogy to the ISACs in this country, frankly, they're great people trying to do good things, but it's really not very effective, and there's not very robust information sharing. Some folks would like to create a new body that would be sort of over the ISACs, but just like the ISACs would never stand for such a thing, and there's so many different bodies internationally that they probably wouldn't stand for it either. So that's why some of the international standards bodies and setting standards, and then the idea that governments or companies would audit themselves or have others audit them to those standards. you know, and frankly, the idea that hopefully we get to the point that if you have a network that you want to have certain level of trust with somebody else who's connecting with you, and the idea of sharing some kind of certifications to show that you're trustworthy, analogous to what the defense industrial-based companies will have to do with government, where people would voluntarily share information or work to certain standards so that they can trust other people. I think that has a greater likelihood of some traction.
Last question.
And by the way, if the question is difficult, we'll be out of time. Just
So hopefully it's not too difficult, but in our country right now, we're very litigious, which is an understatement. But we look at incidents that brought SOX about, so Enron, et cetera. The problem that I see, and you touched on it, was that there really is no one legislation out there. Multiple states have multiple legislations for what they require companies to adhere to if they operate within their state. Is there any one way that we can get one law, so to speak, that governs around the security, and then from there we can have the outside organizations start to fall in line with that. So if we streamline the process rather than continuing to add additional agencies, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think implicit in that is a couple things. Is the idea that some authority that exists will be collected and gathered, and/or authorities would be put in a central place. And we have really a lot of difficulty in this country doing that. On this conference call, this panel yesterday was Senate Homeland Security and Senate Commerce, and the Senate Intel Committee has jurisdiction, and Senate, I'm not sure if it's Government Affairs, with the FISMA reform. They can't even get the committees considering the issues to come together. Another thought is it's similar to when we get frustrated sometimes in this country, and perhaps less so in the last 2 years, we kind of say, well, I wish we had a benevolent dictator to whom we could give all power. I think the concept, and I've got a chapter in the American Bar Association book called Homeland Security that just came out on risk, and the idea that the fiduciary responsibility of boards of directors to their shareholders or to their owners. The idea that risk for purposes of meeting those responsibilities, requiring due diligence, that information risk needs to be part of the overall risk framework for the organization. And so that an organization, to meet their due diligence and corporate responsibilities, have to have basically a meaningful risk management program. And that if there are reasonable international standards out there, they've got to find something that they will evaluate themselves against, or else they won't meet a due diligence requirement. And so although that is almost a many points of light kind of thing, but the idea of raising the bar, and frankly, I think part of it has to do with the innovation. If we can make more visible or create a system for sharing information about security requirements and who can meet them, it would make it harder for corporate people to turn a blind eye. So, for example, the financial sector. You know, folks say that that's one of the most advanced sectors in cybersecurity, and in some ways they are. I was at a conference in Stanford a few weeks ago, and somebody from the FDIC was speaking about it, and I asked her the question, because she was saying, oh, they're great, they're forward-looking, whatever. I said, okay, wait a second. Now, this is one of the most advanced sectors, and in 2009, banks were defending lawsuits from customers, not individuals. It was from governments and corporations, because people with malware on their computers had their username and password stolen, the AHC funds transfer stuff that was written up in the New York Times and Post and other companies. And so the banks defended the lawsuits, saying that under our terms of use, our only requirement was we could only give your money to somebody who gave us your username and password. That would be a complete defense to the suit. So if we can raise the bar on I mean, that's outrageous that the financial companies would use. They know full well there's malware on those computers. They know full well, or they should, that authentication alone, however great, is not the answer. You need authentication plus security. And so the due diligence idea, if it becomes known and there becomes visibility in this industry or this sector, these are the best. Here is the standard against which to judge. And then the corporate folks, as part of the normal risk stuff, they should make sure with independent audits that they're evaluated against